And Deanna Kelly appearing on behalf of Kelly Williams. She's here present.
Tim McDaniel appearing on behalf of Elaina Brown. She's present, Your Honor.
DRE, Senior Honor, appearing on behalf of Elaina Brown.
Are we ready to proceed?
This is exhibit number 1. Oh, sorry. Your Honor, at this time, the people are moving to admit by stipulation the people's exhibit number 7, which is the updated protocol. Mr. Parks indicated that it had ended on, this is dated May 1st, 2016, for the record. And I
Policy
believe,
that was in effect at the time of this.
correct. And there's like 3 words difference, but the court, we're moving to admit it.
On behalf of Ms. Williams, I don't have any objection. I would only indicate that there already is 71301 is already an admitted policy. So for clarification, maybe we should make it 7.
I don't believe I admitted 713.
According to my records, I have it marked as
I don't think we admitted it because the witness was not able, it wasn't relevant at the time, because that was not the policy that was in effect.
Actually, it was introduced though, so it's 7. Whatever the court's pleasure.
That's fine. That's how I move to admit it as 7.
No objection.
Thank you. The people will call it Laura Gibson. Stacey Gibson. Sorry, I'm sorry. I apologize. Stacey Gibson, Your Honor.
Ma'am, if I can have you step forward and give your name and spelling of your name to the young lady seated here.
Stacey Gibson.
And I think I heard from the grapevine that Ms. Goldhart, I think we had some witnesses who didn't want their image.
And
Witnesses.
no, she at least did not say anything to me. The witness you're mentioning, she wasn't here. I called her, and I went upstairs while the court was meeting at the table and called her. And I think there was a misunderstanding, but she said she'll be here within an hour. So we'll discuss that.
What's your name again, ma'am?
Stacey Gibson.
G-I-B-S-O. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. That microphone is going to stick there. Swing that around to your mouth and speak directly into that voice, okay? You may begin when you're ready.
Tell us your name for the record, yes.
Stacey Gibson.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm the Director of the Office of Workforce Development and Training for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And are you familiar with the training that protected services workers go through in order to become protected service workers?
Yes.
There is specific training, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you just tell the judge a summary of how long they're trained and how long their training is?
It's a 9-week training.
And during the training, there is an opportunity to be assigned to some cases, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with whether or not Elaina Brown, well, let me ask you this, let me establish a foundation. Do you keep also the records of who completes training?
Yes.
And are you Are you familiar with whether Elaina Brown did complete training?
Yes.
You're familiar with it, and what's your answer as to whether she did or not?
Yes, she did.
Thank you. I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibits number 8 and 9. Ask you if you're familiar with these exhibits. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Maybe, okay, what is it? 11 and 12. I mean, 12 and 13. Excuse me, Your Honor. These will be People's Proposed Exhibits 12 and 13. The first one I'm showing you is a PowerPoint. That would be number 12. And the second is what is titled Mental Health Issues in Family, number 13. Are you familiar with those two exhibits?
Yes.
How are you familiar with them, please?
Part of our pre-service institute, this appears to be the part of our curriculum for the pre-service institute.
Is that something that you provided to the prosecution, if you know? Pursuant to subpoena?
Yes.
And when you say pre-service institute, does that mean anything different than training?
That the pre-service institute is the specific 9-week training that new child welfare workers take.
Right. And is there training with regard to mental health issues in families?
Yes.
Is there a PowerPoint developed on that?
Yes, that's what you have there.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'm moving to admit as People's Proposed Exhibit number 12, the portion of the PowerPoint titled Mental Health Issues in Families in the first slide, and then it continues. And I'm moving to admit People's Proposed Exhibit number 13, which would be the mental health issues in families, what new child welfare workers need to know as the People's Proposed Exhibit number 13.
As to both defendants.
As to both defendants.
May I vote here? Do you have information that Kelly Williams was partook in the pre-service institute training?
I have information that she did not.
So
Kelly Williams
did not go through that program.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It's not on her training transcript.
She's compliant with her training. She just didn't go through that program, correct?
Correct.
And this particular slideshow or presentation is a presentation that's given through the pre-service institute that Kelly Williams did not attend.
Correct.
Ma'am, can you tell us what supervisors are required to know the protocols and the training prior to being supervisors in the protective service workers?
I don't think I understand the question. Can you ask again?
Are supervisors required to have the knowledge that their underlings have, as well as additional knowledge?
I don't think I can speak to that specifically. I can speak a little bit about supervisory training requirements.
That's fine.
Okay. So new supervisors are required to attend training, a 40-hour training, and then after they complete that, when they are a new supervisor, they're required to attend 16 hours of in-service training annually.
And among the things that they're required to know, are they the same things that the people they supervise are required to know?
I can't speak specifically to what's in the curriculum without going back and looking.
Are they required to be familiar with the curriculum for the people they supervise?
Again, I can't speak specifically to whether that's covered in the supervisory training.
Ms. Williams, a new supervisor?
No.
No. supervisor, Ms. Williams? So she was not a new supervisor. Because you spoke specifically as to new supervisors. What if you're not a new supervisor?
If you're not a new supervisor, you're required to take 16 hours of in-service training annually, and that's training on any topic that qualifies for in-service. It's not a specific curriculum. It's an hour, it's a requirement that you take a specific amount of training.
Ma'am, is there a presumption within the department that in order to supervise, you're required to know certain basics?
I'll object as to a presumption. I believe it's speculative.
Overruled.
You're supposed to know the basics of dealing with families, is that correct, as a supervisor?
Again, speaking from the training aspect,
Sure.
so in training, the supervisors are, I would say, aware of the curriculum that the new workers, that their new workers are required to take.
That would be, they're required to be aware. Would that be right? Or am I misstating what you're saying?
They're required to sign at the end of training that the new trainee has completed all of the requirements, that the new employee has completed the requirements.
And in order to sign whether they've completed requirements, they're required to know what they have to do and what they're trained about. Is that right?
That seems fair, yeah.
And again, Your Honor, at this time, the people are moving to admit proposed exhibits number 12 and number 13.
How is that relevant as to Ms. Williams?
She is required to know it. It is what, in order to sign off that her workers been trained, she has to be aware of what they're trained about. And she is supervising somebody who has been trained in this knowledge, and it has to, in order to supervise, you obviously have to be aware of what the requirements and training of any particular position are. And witness testified that in order to sign off, it is fair to say that they must be aware of the training that the people they supervise have.
That's not the testimony I just heard. The testimony I just heard was that new supervisors are to receive certain training. Ms. Williams isn't a new supervisor, so I specifically asked that question.
Yeah.
She's supposed to receive training over a period of time. My understanding is that that period of time had not lapsed as of yet.
All right. Perhaps I misunderstood. Did I hear you say that in order to sign off that the person has the training, they have to be aware of the training they've undergone? Or did I misunderstand?
The supervisor of the trainee, whoever is the supervisor at the time the trainee is going through training, has to sign off at the end of training that the trainee has completed all of the requirements. There are classroom requirements and field requirements, and the supervisor of the trainee is required to sign off and would need to know that they completed the field requirements.
Okay, so that's confusing apples and oranges. To say that my person that I'm supervising has undergone training, yeah, you've undergone training. That doesn't necessarily mean that knowledge has been imputed to me, what your training was and so forth, just that you completed the training.
Okay. Is it your testimony, am I to understand that the supervisors are not required to have, in order to supervise, to have the same knowledge that the people that are working for them are trained to?
Again, I would have to look at the the curriculum, this lesson plan for the supervisory training. I don't myself deliver that, but I would have to look at that to say specifically what that expectation is.
All right. And at this time, then, Your Honor, because I can anticipate the court's ruling anyway, I'll move to admit people to number 12 and 13 as to Ms. Brown only at this time.
Your Honor, just objection, Your Honor. There hasn't been any foundation established that Ms. Brown underwent the training. Also, Your Honor, that even this witness, since she is clearly not Ms. Brown's trainer, I don't know how she can testify as to what knowledge wasn't imputed to Ms. Brown doing any training, Your Honor.
But if she's able to testify that she knows Ms. Brown underwent the training, then a foundation needs to be laid as to how she has that knowledge. But we are putting the cart before the horse. Let foundations go.
Ma'am, are you familiar with Ms. Brown's training records?
I have seen Ms. Brown's training record, yes.
And as part of this, the subpoena to provide records, you did provide her training records, correct?
Correct.
And so you've not only seen them, but you were the custodian of those training records. Is that right?
I provided them, yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 14 and ask you if you're familiar with this document.
That's 14.
This is 14. All right, you can take a look. You can take it from me.
Yes, I'm familiar with the document.
Okay. Do you recall if she completed all of her training requirements?
Yes,
What do you recall about that?
she did complete her training requirement.
And that included the training that is in the first two exhibits I showed you, correct?
It included the Pre-Service Institute training, yes.
Okay. Of which the first two exhibits, for the record 12 and 13, were a part, correct?
Correct.
I would move at this time for admission of 14 as well.
Again, Your Honor, just ask that it be established that the witness is aware of what training she incurred, that she witnessed it or something, Your Honor, that she witnessed Ms. Brown during the training period or something to that nature, versus indicating that Ms. Brown received the training, but she hadn't been part of the training.
We'll have an opportunity to cross-examine the witness on those points. Their objection goes to the weight that this court should give to her testimony, not necessarily not the admissibility of this exhibit.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
So the court will admit People's Proposed Exhibit 14.
And again, People's Proposed Exhibits 12 and 13 were a part of the training in the Pre-Service Institute taken from the manuals that you provided pursuant to subpoena. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you provided them as custodian, correct?
Correct.
I'm moving for their admission, so I want this time.
12 and 13.
Yes.
Any objection?
Just a second objection, Your Honor.
Which is?
As the court mentioned, that's going to go to the weight.
Admit.
And only admitted as to Ms. Brown.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Ma'am, do you have,
Hold on a second. Mr. Eason, Darrell Eason. Go ahead.
do you have the specific training requirements with regard to mental health training that supervisors undergo
Do I have them?
with you?
No.
Are you familiar with it?
For supervisors? No.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you page 15 at the bottom and ask you what the workers, if it indicates what the training is with regard to what workers are instructed to do with regard to mental illness and
What
families.
is that, Sharon?
This would be People's Proposed Exhibit number 12, page, it's the third page of the exhibit. It has on the bottom page 16. At the bottom.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. At the bottom, the last bullet point or that PowerPoint, does it indicate what workers are instructed to do, instructed and trained to do with regard to mental illness?
Yes.
Tell us what it says.
It says, refer the parent to community mental health or to a hospital as they need the care of a physician, psychiatrist, mental health worker, include a mental health professional and team approach, monitor medication and medication compliance, include non-prescription drug use, self-medication, consider worker child safety protocols in light of potentially unpredictable behavior.
And that's all part of the training they undergo, is that right?
This is a part of the Pre-Service Institute student guide, yes.
All right. While this additional exhibit is being marked on, I have one other question. During the pre-service training and beyond, if you know, what are workers trained to do with regard to the published protocol that's on the internet, available in published form from the department?
The policy manuals that
Yes,
you're
the policy protocol manuals, correct.
We train workers to follow the policy manual.
What about supervisors?
So again, I haven't reviewed the supervisory curriculum, but in general, we train to follow policy and procedure and law.
Policy, procedure, and when you're talking about law, you're talking about the child protection law?
Yes, child protection law specifically, but certainly any law.
And, okay. But the training is to follow protocol, the published protocol, correct?
Correct.
And procedure, correct?
Correct.
And the child protection law, and of course, any other law of the state or the federal or local municipality, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm going to also show you what's now marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 15. Ask if this is also part of what you provided as the custodian pursuant to subpoena.
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the log for the training for Pre-Service Institute F, which occurred May 25th to July 24th, 2015 for Elaina Brown.
And does it indicate that she took all of the training and that is in the mental, including the mental health training that's in Exhibit 12?
It indicates that she took all of the training, and the exhibits were part of Families at Risk curriculum, which occurred in week 2.
All right. And I'll move to these training records also, Your Honor, and that is marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 15.
Any objection?
No objection.
Proceed.
I have nothing further on this, Your Honor.
Cross examine.
Just briefly. To any time that you trained Elaina Brown yourself personally?
No, I did not.
Were you ever present at any time Elaina Brown received any training?
No, I was not.
No further questions.
Same questions as to Kelly Williams. Did you personally train her?
No, I did not.
You can't tell the court or anyone else what she was personally trained about,
No, I cannot.
or that she had any knowledge in terms of what Elaina Brown was trained about.
No, I cannot.
In fact, was Kelly Williams Elaina Brown's supervisor at the time Elaina Brown took the 9-week institute class?
She is not the supervisor who signed the training record for Elaina Brown.
So anything that would have taken place in that 9-week course would have been a different supervisor, not Kelly Williams, who would have been aware.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes. Was Kelly Williams the supervisor within the CPS, a Child Protective Service Worker supervisor, during the time period from, say, March of 2016 through the end of May of 2016?
I can't speak to what her position would have been specifically. I don't know what her position would have been during that time.
There's certain people who are exempted from the training because of experience. Is that correct?
If they've gone through comparable training, they...
Do you know if Kelly Williams was exempted because of experience or not?
I don't know specifically. I don't know specifically. The training records that we produced were specifically for 2014 to 2016, and it didn't indicate on there.
Okay. You did produce training records for that time period.
Yes. Yep.
And it does indicate, as part of the training records, that a woman named Kelly Lentz Williams was in fact employed in the department at that time.
She has training on her transcript for that time. I can't say specifically what her position would have been.
Okay. So, I'm going to show you something. Ask it if it... Well, I'm not going to do that necessarily. I'm just going to make a reflection about the time period that she was employed. I'll mark it. This is people's proposed exhibit. Well, this is people's exhibit for identification purposes only. Asking you if this is also a record that you provided as a custodian during an investigative subpoena proceeding.
Yes.
Does it help you refresh your recollection as to what Kelly Williams' role was from the period the records were subpoenaed from January 2014, I believe, through May of 2016?
There is training on here for supervisors.
And
on her transcripts.
All right. And those are the records for, so that would indicate if she was a supervisor at that time, beginning in January 2014 at least, correct?
That would be my
Are you saying
interpretation.
a supervisor or Ms. Brown's supervisor?
I'm not saying that she was Ms. Brown's supervisor. I'm saying that she was a supervisor at Child Protective Services at that time.
Let me ask a question. When was this training that Ms. Brown underwent? What period of time was that?
We could provide the exhibit if she doesn't know off the top.
The The Pre-Service Institute
Yes.
was May 2015 to July 2015. The 9-week period it was completed on July 24th, I believe, 2015.
Okay.
That's it. I have nothing further. Oh, yeah. Well, are these the training records that you did provide, so to speak, at that period of time?
They appear to be the training records that we provided.
And, Your Honor, at this time, I have no permission to post Exhibit 16. No objection.
No objection.
Proceed.
Other than the one sentence that you read for Ms. Goldpark indicating that something about monitoring medication, are CPS workers trained to monitor anyone's medication?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. I'm nothing further.
Let me ask you, because I'm not a social worker. I'm not a CPS worker. And I'm just trying to get this in layman terms, what's supposed to transpire here. If I have a situation where I'm interacting with this family and I have a parent that is exhibiting maybe some signs of some mental incapacity, is that person, as the CPS worker, supposed to refer that to someone else, refer that parent to someone else for that parent to be evaluated? Is that a fair understanding?
So, I have not been a CPS worker, and I have not personally trained CPS workers, but I'm familiar that we have in our training that we advise workers to refer them to a mental health professional when they identify that somebody is experiencing mental health issues.
In that referral, does that, as far as you know, does that entail also removing a child from that home if there has been no signs of abuse or neglect?
I don't know the answer to that specifically.
All right, I'll just check. Thank you.
Well, can I just follow up on the court's question? Are the workers taught to take action when there's a risk of harm as opposed to when the child is actually harmed?
I would have to look back at the curriculum. Again, I'm not a trainer, so I don't know the specifics. I would have to look at the actual curriculum.
You did indicate that they're trained to follow protocol, correct?
Correct.
And they're trained to file what has been the special investigations protocol that was admitted, correct? Or you don't know if it was admitted, but it's on people's exhibit number 8. That's part of the protocol they're required to follow, is that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Just cause for speculation. She said in her question she don't know, so if she wanted to refer to an exhibit.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this witness is familiar with the exhibit either. You're talking about Exhibit 8, which was admitted. There's some other witnesses.
It's called special investigation situation, Your Honor.
And that may be the case, but how does she know what Exhibit 8 is?
Well, I would object to that exhibit in and of itself, Your Honor. The witness is testifying only as a custodian of records pertaining to training materials, Your Honor.
No, she's testified beyond the training material.
Objection. Next question.
Did you not testify that workers are trained to follow protocol?
Correct.
And the protocol includes all of the published protocol?
The Protective Services Manual. They're trained to follow the policy manual.
Okay. The policy manual is part of that, is the special investigations situation manual, which is...
Objection again, Your Honor. She's gone beyond the scope of this witness, Your Honor.
Sustained.
All right, I have nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. So let's change gears for one moment.
Thurston. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's Police Officer Thurston, Your Honor.
Sir, please give your name and spelling to the court reporter. Good afternoon, sir. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do, Your Honor. Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. Thank you. Name, give me your right.
Thank you. Tell us your name, what you do for a living.
Good morning, ma'am. Officer Christopher Thurston, police officer.
How long have you been with, you're with the Detroit Police Department, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been with Detroit Police?
20 years, ma'am.
Did you have an opportunity on April 21st of 2016 to respond to a location known as 4434 Trumbull, apartment number 6, located in the city of Detroit?
I did, ma'am.
6. Apartment number 10, located in the city of Detroit, excuse me?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And do you recall the purpose in responding to that location?
There was a 911 call from Child Protective Services in regards to having us respond to the location, excuse me, to assist with their investigation.
And that, do you remember about what time that would have been on April 21st?
It was in the afternoon sometime. I don't recall the exact time.
Daylight hours?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you responded to calls from protective services in the past?
Yes, I have.
What is your role as a police officer? Well, did you respond, first of all?
Yes, I did.
Did you respond alone?
No, I did not.
Who did you respond with?
I was there with a coworker, Officer Ronald Latch.
And did you meet up with somebody who purported to have made the phone call to 911?
Upon responding to the location, we met with 2 separate CPS workers.
Do you recall either of those CPS workers that you met with?
One was Elaina Brown, and the other one was the last name of Barr. I apologize, I can't remember the first name.
Were you given to understand which one was in charge of the investigation?
They didn't specify either one was in charge.
All right. Do you see either of those persons here today?
I observed Miss Brown. She's sitting on the bench behind you. Black female, glasses, braids.
Identifying for the defendant, Your Honor.
So no.
Sir, you've indicated that you have responded with regard to 911 calls from CPS?
Yes.
And what is your role as a police officer when you respond to those calls?
Basically to assist with their investigation, stand by to help maintain the peace at the location if there's any hostility there.
And was there an indication of hostility to you?
Absolutely not.
Was there, what was the purpose in calling, if there was, if you know?
You can't testify as to
All right.
someone else's purpose.
All right. What happened when you responded?
We responded to the location, like I said, and we met with both CPS workers, Miss Brown, Miss Barr. They advised us that the young lady that they were there to investigate was not open.
Can you, if you're going to testify about what was advised, please just limit it to what Miss Brown said, or if it was said in her presence, and you know, and she was acknowledging it, let us know, so we know who was talking and who wasn't.
I don't recall exactly who told us the information, but they were there to conduct a household investigation.
All right. And that's what you were told?
Yes.
And they were both present when you were told that?
Yes.
Did they tell you why they called 911?
The resident at the location was not opening the door.
That's what they told you?
Yes.
And do you recall who told you that?
I don't recall.
Were they both present when those words were spoken?
From what I can recall, yes.
All right. As a result of what you, this conversation, what did you do next?
I can't recall whether it was myself or my partner, but we knocked on the door and advised the resident to open the door.
And did they?
Yes.
Somebody opened it?
Yes.
Did that person, if you recall, identify themselves to you, or did you be able to ascertain their identity?
Through the investigation at the location, we realized it was the resident. If I recall correctly, her name was Deanna Minor.
And did you enter the residence?
I did.
Did the protective service workers enter the residence as well?
Yes.
What happened within the residence?
We just stood by while the protective services workers conducted their investigation, just asking basic questions, things of that sort.
Do you recall any of the questions they asked?
I don't recall off the top of my head, no.
Do you recall if a little boy was there?
Yes.
Did you inspect that boy for any... Did you inspect his body in any way?
We just observed him playing in the living room area with some toys, but did we physically look at him? No.
Did anybody look at him physically, if you know, while in your presence?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Do you know if this little boy could talk at all?
I remember the boy being young, limited vocabulary due to the age, but he seemed like an average 3-year-old boy.
And did you look around the apartment?
Yes.
Unit number 10.
Yes.
What did you observe, if anything?
It appeared to be an average apartment. I believe there was 2 bedrooms, a couple toys laying on the floor, nothing out of the ordinary.
Did you notice anything out of the ordinary at any point?
No, ma'am.
Or that alarmed you in any way?
Absolutely
Caused
not.
you concern?
No, ma'am.
What about the food situation, sir?
Upon further investigation, there was a limited amount of food inside the residence. Upon speaking with the resident, I believe her name was Miss Minor, she claimed that her bridge card was either lost or stolen, so she has been excuse me, unable to get some food for the house, but there was some food inside the residence. During our investigation, she said she was expected a new bridge card in the mail that day. We asked her to respond to the mailbox, and she did, and did recover a brand new bridge card that was mailed to the house that day.
And were you present for any discussion about her mental health treatment or her mental health status?
I'm not a doctor, I can't.
No, I'm not asking you to give us an opinion. I'm asking you if you were present for a discussion regarding her questions about her mental health status.
We stood by there during the investigation by CPS towards Ms.
Did you
Minor.
hear some questions asked about that or not?
About her mental state?
Yes, her
Yes.
mental, yes, the state of her mental health.
I remember there were some questions asked. Do I recall what questions they were? I do not.
Do you recall being shown any medications at any point?
While we looked in the kitchen for the food, there was a couple prescription bottles inside one of the cupboards inside the kitchen. Did not physically inspect what type of medication it was, but there was medication in the cupboard. Yes.
So how is the medication packaged?
From what I recall, it's like a orangish, brownish prescription bottle they would get at a pharmacy.
Do you recall if there was conversation about whether she was taking her medication?
I don't recall.
How long do you think you stayed there?
We were there for quite a bit of time.
Like,
I would say, if I had to guess, half hour.
So to you, a half an hour is quite a bit of time?
Yeah, yes.
Did you come to know that there were some ordinance or misdemeanor violations that were outstanding with regard to Ms. Minor?
I wasn't aware of any violations at the time, no.
Were there warrants? I meant warrants.
I don't recall if I ran Ms. Minor or not in the lien system.
Theoretically, if there were misdemeanor warrants, are you required to arrest somebody on misdemeanor warrants as a police officer?
For a felony charge, absolutely. Usually with misdemeanor charges, it is discretionary.
So, and that's the protocol that you correctly.
Yes.
Do you have any responsibility beyond escort and standing by to continue an investigation
In regards to?
in regards to a complaint that came into protective service?
Absolutely not.
Do you have,
Excuse me.
were you present the next day on April 22nd when Ms. Minor made certain statements to the workers?
No, I was not.
Were you present ever again at that apartment?
Approximately about a month later, when I heard a call for service come out that there was a child deceased at the apartment complex.
Did you actually go to the apartment?
I did.
Were you able to make observations about what was, other than the deceased child was there at that time, correct?
Yes, he was.
Putting aside that the deceased child was there, were you able to make observations about the condition of the compartment when you responded to that deceased child and the condition when you were there on April 21st?
I remember the house being in kind of a disarray, stuff laying all over the house, things of that sort. Bedroom was in disarray. Like the house hasn't been cleaned in a couple days.
Are you talking about on the first occasion or the second occasion?
This would be on the occasion that that I responded to when the child was found deceased.
Beyond your half an hour at that residence, did you have any further responsibility there?
Other than maintaining the peace, no. We just stood by while CPS conducted their investigation.
And did CPS leave with you at that time?
I believe they did, yes.
So they were there for a total of a half an hour as well.
It may have been longer. I don't recall the exact time we were at the location, but I remember it was a while.
Can you give us parameters? A half an hour to what?
I don't recall exactly. If I had to guess off the top of my head, maybe a half hour to an hour.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Good morning.
When you were at the home on April 21st with Ms. Barr and Ms. Brown, you actually saw the 3-year-old child, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you didn't see any signs of abuse?
No, like I said, we didn't physically inspect him, but he was playing at the location like an average 3-year-old.
Okay. And if you would have seen signs of abuse, obviously you're a mandated reporter, correct?
Absolutely.
And you would have done something about it, correct?
Yes.
You would have either made a CPS complaint, correct?
CPS was at the location
Right.
already.
Made sure that it was followed up upon by CPS, correct?
We would make the proper notifications. In this case, CPS was already at the scene, so they would have been notified.
Okay. And you didn't see any signs of neglect?
No.
Okay. And you indicated that Deanna Minor appeared ordinary,
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
and that the apartment, when you returned a month later, the day that the deceased child was found, was in a different state than the day that you were there on April 21st.
That's correct.
Okay.
Excuse me.
If you had seen signs of abuse and or neglect, would that be something that you would document?
Yes.
All right, and you didn't document that?
We didn't see anything to recall us to document anything at the time.
Okay. Thank you.
No question.
Can you reiterate?
Yeah. Is it your responsibility to follow up to make sure that a child is properly cared for?
No.
So what you saw in that half hour is all you're here to testify about. Is that correct?
Yes.
I love you now.
Thank you, sir. You may step.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
We're going to see if our next witness is here, the one I called.
Hope so.
I hope so too. There was I'm not sure.
This is your last witness too, right?
No, I lied to the court by mistake. I lied by mistake. Sergeant Mackey is. It was a mistake. I mean, it wouldn't do me very much good to lie.
This next witness isn't here. Why can't we go with the next?
We will, but we will. She's not here. It would be the mental. Tracy McCall.
So we have two witnesses.
They're not, okay. I'll... Yeah. When she gets... Your Honor, I'm going to call... I'm sorry, I Are you ready for it? I'm going to call Sergeant Mackey. What I would like to do is, when the other witness arrives, interrupt his testimony to put her on, if I might.
Why?
They coincide with one another, she says she needs to get back to work.
Wait a minute, she's late and not here.
Well-
We're going to interrupt another witness? No.
Okay, whatever. I
Call
just,
your next witness.
thank you. I'll call Sergeant Samuel Mackey.
Good afternoon, sir. Please give your name and spelling to the court reporter. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. May begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Tell us your name, what you do for a living.
My name is Sergeant Samuel Mackey. I'm a sergeant with the Detroit Police Department Homicide Unit.
And sir, how long have you been employed by Detroit?
Just over 20 years.
And how long have you been with homicide?
March makes 9 years.
And sir, how many child death investigations have you completed during, if you could tell us, during your time with Detroit Police Homicide?
Hundreds.
Who is the person in Detroit Police Homicide who's primarily assigned to child death, if there is somebody in homicide?
It's my responsibility to, even if I don't personally respond to a child death, to conduct a follow-up investigation and to review each child death case that comes in.
So, so when you say hundreds, that would be cases you were the officer in charge of?
That's correct.
And even the cases you weren't officer in charge of, you were part of the investigative team or the review and supervisor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
During the time that you have been, how long have you been handling child deaths for homicide, by the way?
5 years now.
And during the time that you've been handling the child deaths for homicide, have you worked with protective services?
Yes.
How frequently do you work with protective services?
On just about every case.
As a result, are you familiar with their protocols and the child protection law, or are you not familiar with them?
I would say I was somewhat familiar.
Were you part of the were you one of the persons who responded to the scene at Trumbull that was on May 25th of 2016?
I wasn't the first investigator on the scene, but I was immediately notified when the child was discovered, and I responded as quickly as I could.
Did you ultimately become in charge of that scene?
I did. I assumed command of the scene.
And what about officer in charge of the cases that resulted from that death?
I took on that responsibility as well.
When you responded to that scene on Como, that apartment number 10, can you tell the court, well, did you enter the apartment?
I did.
Had it already been secured at that point?
When you say secured?
Was there a perimeter set up and people restricted to police officers coming in and out?
That's correct. It was uniformed officers on scene that were prohibiting anyone else from entering the location.
Was there any civilian adult present in that scene at that apartment?
No.
Were you directed to whether or not one of the police officers had ever seen a civilian adult present when the child was found deceased?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Were you directed to a maintenance man?
Yes, I was.
Was there any other person who was a civilian adult at that scene besides the maintenance person?
No.
What did you see when you entered the scene, sir?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the questions, the further questions regarding the scene. This case is regarding Child Protective Service and her supervisor. The scene that's in question is the scene that what they saw, what Ms. Brown saw when she went out there to see the child. It's based on her observation at that time, not the observation of the police officer 30 days later, Your Honor.
And if I may add also that we just heard from Officer Thurston that the scene was substantially different.
Your Honor, the point is that there's supposed to be an ongoing investigation. And they went one time, they went twice, April 21st and April 22nd, and never followed up on an ongoing investigation. As a result, the scene is relevant as to what happened to this child and to his mother as Protective Services abandoned and ignored them. Very relevant.
In terms of evidence, I would argue that there has been no evidence proving that this is an ongoing investigation. I will counter that.
Your Honor,
Evidence that there is an ongoing investigation?
That there was a duty to perform an ongoing investigation at this case. I think the prosecutor and I will have a different interpretation of what the policy called for.
and Your Honor, I would just like to refer the court to the testimony of Colin Parks from the Department of Social Services. He indicated specifically that there were no policy violations. He also indicated that Prosecutor's Exhibit 713 pertaining to the procedures would not be applicable in this case because the workers had already seen the child. So what happens 30 days later would not be applicable to the state of mind of the worker at that time on April 21st and April 22nd.
So your objection is essentially relevant?
It's relevant, Your Honor.
Your Honor, there's two things. The records of this worker have been admitted. They indicate that on May 6th, they had contact with the mental health workers, indicating that her mental health was deteriorating. She wasn't taking her medication. They indicate that on May 12th, they were told, Protective Services, that she was volatile, unpredictable, and a number of other adjectives. So the records themselves that were omitted through Lynette White indicate this was, in fact, an ongoing investigation.
Why don't you give me an offer of proof as to what you're trying to get from Sergeant Mackey? Because thus far, his testimony is somewhat cumulative as to Christopher Thurston.
Well, first of all, in order to prove manslaughter, I have to prove that there was a homicide. So,
Well, I don't think you have an issue with that because you have an exhibit where you have the child that was deceased, you have the maintenance worker who came in and found him.
I don't think that's I don't think that necessarily proves homicide, though we do have a medical examiner who testified to homicide. So, I don't know that the maintenance worker himself would prove that this is a homicide, but the investigation that was done by Sergeant Mackey to show...
I don't think the child's death is in question, that he died as a result of a homicide. That's not the issue.
Well, I believe that counsel did actually make it an issue, asking the medical examiner a number of questions about, well, could there have been some kind of sudden, some kind of accident? Was there a reason? And homicide investigators
What
are...
I'm indicating to you, Ms. Goldfarb, is that you already got the homicide. Okay. You have that by way of the medical examiner's testimony.
All right.
This was a homicide. The least probable cause that this was a homicide. Okay.
All right.
Now, I'm asking for an offer of proof as to this witness's testimony. What else?
The entire testimony?
I want to offer proof. Why did you call, or why are you calling Sergeant Mackey as a witness?
I'm calling Sergeant Mackey as a witness because he looked through the medication. He can describe how you entered the apartment and the condition of the apartment. He can indicate what witnesses were at the scene, how he conducted his investigation. He can testify about protective service workers and their lack of cooperation with this investigation. He can testify as to why it was important for him to a certain information that protective services had, like so that he could make notifications, so that he could see if somebody had been kidnapped, so he could determine if it was a homicide. He can testify that when he got the records through subpoena, he can testify.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Stop talking over me and listen to me. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go
All right.
ahead.
All right. Thank you. I wasn't intending to sound. I apologize if I was talking over you.
Please go ahead. I'm
right.
begging you now.
All right. I'm clear. Thank you. Sir, did you check out this apartment?
I did.
Did you look for any identification?
Yes.
What kind of identification were you looking for, sir?
So the information I had at the time was just that there was a deceased child in the house. I had no information as to whether or not there was other children that were missing. Was there if there was at least one or more adult in the house, where that adult is at. So right from the beginning, when I arrived on scene, I informed everybody there that we have to treat this as if we may have to issue Amber Alerts and things of that sort to try and determine what happened to this boy's caregivers.
And did you make some determination whether there were protective service workers at the scene?
Yes.
Were you able to, was it your understanding that they may have information that could save children or adults?
Yes.
Did they cooperate with you?
They did not.
What did you, as a result of, when you say they didn't cooperate, what did they do?
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor.
Who is they, first of all?
Elaina Brown was on the scene, and there was other caseworkers, but I don't know their names.
What did they do?
Can we get specifically quit saying they?
What did Elaina Brown do that caused you to conclude that they were not, that she was not cooperative?
Objection, Your Honor, as to relevance. Whether she was cooperative at that time has nothing to do with this case, Your Honor. This is based on her observation and her job at the time she was out at the property, which was April 21st and April 22nd, prior to the death of the child. Whether she was answered any of the officer's questions after the child died, I don't see how that's relevant to these proceedings. And in fact, she has a right not to talk with the officer if she thinks she's going to be under any investigation.
I'll overrule the objection as that it may be relevant as to Ms. Brown's overall attitude towards the case, so to speak.
Ms. Brown refused to answer questions without an attorney.
And
Different.
was there any reason that you had any reason to suspect that she had done anything when you started trying to get questions so you couldn't possibly do Ambler alerts or give descriptions of the adult who was supposed to be there?
No, I had no idea of any involvement with her in this particular matter with this particular child.
As a result of, did you get any information that day and night as a way of time from anybody in the service?
No.
Did they give you some name or number to call at all?
They did provide a name. Forgive me, his name escapes me right now, but I believe it was their public relations person.
Was that what you were interested in at that time?
No, not at all. We still had to find out whether or not there was children missing and where the adult, where the adults in the house were at, or what happened to them.
Did, as a result of this lack of information from, well, you indicated before that you have worked with protective services before.
Yes.
Have you, in just about every child death investigation?
Yes.
Have you ever encountered something where they won't assist you to try?
Objection, that's irrelevant, Your Honor.
I think, well, if you want me to argue now. It goes to consciousness of her own of guilt. It goes to consciousness. You cooperate when you don't have anything to be guilty about, just like everybody else.
Objection, Your Honor. Even as counsel stated, she's saying that someone refusing to answer questions, saying she needs to have a presence of counsel, cannot be considered any type of suspicion of guilt or thinking they're guilty, Your Honor. So her invoking her right to an attorney.
I'll sustain the objection.
Sir, did she immediately invoke her right to an attorney, or was it after you tried to get information?
It was after we're trying to get information.
Was she cooperative before she invoked her right to an attorney?
No.
Your Honor, just maybe lay a foundation to establish that he even spoke with Ms. Brown directly, Your Honor. Because she's
Were you the one, or was there somebody else from the squad who was doing?
Detective Michael Dowdy.
Were you present?
I was out there.
Were you present at the time that he was talking to her?
No.
So, Your Honor, so objection here as a hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
And again, you are familiar with the child protection laws applies to police and protective services, or not?
Yes.
And what is protective services law as you understand it with regard to police and protective services?
So, Judge, I'll object at this point. He's not an attorney. He's not an expert. He can't speak for himself, and his opinion of what the law is irrelevant.
I'm not asking for an opinion. I'm asking for what his understanding is with regard to the police and protective services interacting roles on an investigation.
Go ahead.
CPS is required to cooperate with law enforcement.
Did you or anybody on your squad get any cooperation that night?
Objection, Your Honor. That's a speculation. He can't say what anyone on the squad
Same rephrase.
Did you get any cooperation that night or receive any information that assisted your investigation that night?
Objection again, Your Honor. He's already testified that he didn't speak with Ms. Brown.
I'm asking if he received any information from any CPS source that assisted his investigation. If he was in charge of the investigation, he had certain goals, and if he received records that assisted his investigation, he did, and if he didn't, he didn't.
Why don't you narrow your scope as to what he did or did not receive from Ms. Brown, or even tried to get any from Ms. Brown? Because at this point, I don't even know that he himself tried to.
From Ms. Brown, did there come any information that night that was relayed to you to assist the investigation?
None at all.
As a result of that, or did you have to take further action to get information?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you then went about doing to get information?
From CPS, are you
Yes.
referring to? I contacted the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, let them know what was going on, the issues we were having, which subsequently led to investigative subpoenas being issued for the records pertaining to Deanna Minor and Aaron Minor and Deanna Minor's other children as well.
Do you remember what day you did that?
The investigative subpoena was served.
Well, did you serve it?
I did. I served the investigative subpoena on the Friday after the boy's body was found, which would have been May 27th.
Did you ultimately get some records in the subsequent day, or that day even?
I did. There was a 12 o'clock deadline at which they met.
It was what?
A 12 o'clock deadline to produce the records.
Did you have an opportunity to review the records?
I did.
Did the records at that time go through the date of May 13th?
Yes.
Do you recall if that indicated that there was ongoing information that was being given to Protective Services regarding Aaron and Deanna Minor?
Yes.
What do you recall?
Wait a minute now. Yes. Yeah, but that's the evidence for problem.
Well,
Your Honor, well, we're the same.
That's the evidence for the record itself.
all right, well, the records are made. Sir, did you get some information about the father of Deanna Minor's children from those records?
The father of her 3 other children, not the deceased boy.
And there were certain, do you recall that there was the records reported certain allegations or certain...
Objection, Your Honor. The records are already in evidence, and now I don't see the relevance at this point, Your Honor, to ask about allegations against the mom, against Deanna Minor.
I'm establishing a foundation for whether he followed up to talk to this person.
Why don't you ask that question?
Well, I was just establishing a foundation. Okay. Did you follow up on what was in the records with regard to talking to Mr. Keon Joe?
Yes, I personally interviewed him.
And was he consistent with what was in the records or inconsistent when you interviewed him?
He,
You know, at this point, I will object because Keon Jones might have an opinion about something, but to ask whether he was consistent with what was contained in the records, unless he had personal knowledge of what was contained in the records.
I interpreted her question as to meaning, was he consistent with what he's indicated in the records as to what he was telling Sergeant Mackey? Now, did I understand that incorrectly?
I did. Was Mr. Keon Jones consistent with
What he recorded.
what was recorded in the records?
With regard to what he said.
Yes.
Okay.
That
Oh.
was my understanding.
That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
I would have to look at the record, the CPS record, before I can answer.
Do you remember where you went to interview him?
At his home.
I'm going to refer him to page 12 of the records and ask him if these are the records he received or consistent with records he received that day, and if it refreshes his recollection.
Yes, the statement I took from him is more detailed than what's in the notes, but the statement I took from him includes everything that's in these notes and then additional information with his concerns regarding the Anna minor and the safety of Aaron minor.
Thank you. Sir?
Your Honor, I'm just going to object to statements regarding Keon. He is the father of the 3 children. His opinion as to Aaron Minor or Deanna Minor just has no relevance in this case, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is part of the Protective Service investigation. It was cumulative information to what the mental health workers were telling. They contacted Mr. Jones and failed to act on the information he provided. Their responsibility is to investigate, to see if whether this child is safe or not, based on what everybody who's related to this child is saying.
Let me stop you, because my understanding from previous hearings is that the other minor children were not with Ms. Minor.
Right.
But they weren't removed by CPS or any other person. They were taken by their respective father or fathers. I don't know.
They were the prior testimony was they became part of the court. They became involved with the court. That she was on the central registry, and that ultimately, since he was able to assume custody, nothing more.
Objection, Your Honor. That is completely inaccurate.
That is not what was presented in your report, and that is not accurate information.
Colin Parks testified that she was on the central registry.
Correct.
And the testimony is that she also was the subject of Protective Service proceedings based on abuse of a young lady who was a daughter of hers.
Yes.
Okay.
And ultimately, he has custody. But what?
Your Honor, that's a dynamic stretch. Custody came about through the friend of the court and the 2 parties as parents. Had nothing to do with Child Protective Services. So to try to put those 2 together, they just don't fit at all, Your Honor. She's taken a stretch this matter completely, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is what the stretch that I'm confused of is what protective services did in their investigation. They contacted Keon Jones. They accumulated this information. It's in the records that have been admitted, and they failed to take action on it. His intimate knowledge of her,
Your
her
Honor,
mental
I'll
health,
object
and
again,
her
Your Honor.
ability to care for children.
In the record, it said he hadn't talked to her for a couple of years.
3 years.
3 years, yes, Your Honor. So, yeah.
What the record, well,
The objection was relative to sustained.
Sir, when you reviewed these records, was there any subsequent visit, attempted visit with Aaron Minor after the April 22nd?
Objection again, Your Honor. The records are already in evidence. The records...
Right. Ultimately, were you able to find out from your investigation where the location of Deanna Minor?
Yes.
What did your investigation reveal about her location?
On May 23rd, when Aaron Minor his body was discovered, Deanna Minor was institutionalized for a mental illness.
And were you able to, through the department intelligence and so forth, determine what date there might have been an ambulance that responded to that address or some other means of transport?
Deanna Minor was picked up from the parking lot of that apartment building by medics on May 16th of 2016.
Personal knowledge.
Your Honor, it's part of the investigation. The records indicate that when she was picked up, the
Records.
It is not hearsay. It's the business records
My
of
question was, what records?
the business records of the EMS.
Have they been admitted?
No. Did you if he reviewed them and if their business records have been regular sources?
I was specifically asked whether the call was from that particular day, and we don't have them. We've never seen them.
Were you able? All right.
There's no foundation.
Did you? How did you make that determination? That she was picked up on or about May 16th?
When I spoke to people from the apartment building, the apartment
Objection,
complex,
hearsay, Your Honor.
It's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but how he attained certain knowledge that he relied on. So I'll take it for that limited purpose.
so I was informed that Deanna Minor was transported from the parking lot of that apartment complex by ambulance. They weren't certain of the particular day, but I was able to pull up the what we call CAD runs, which is computer-aided dispatch, which shows there's a record of Deanna Minor being picked up.
And those records are kept in the ordinary course of business?
That's correct.
In a centralized place?
That's correct, and they're part of the matter of practice.
Will the court also order that they be turned over? We asked for those records.
Give me a discovery order.
I did turn over all the CAD records are turned over. Yes.
Okay. And we want this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you know where Deanna Minor is now?
Still institutionalized.
Sir, did you search the residence?
I did.
Did you find anything with regard to medication?
Objection again, Your Honor, as to relevance. The scene, Sergeant Mackey came on the scene 30 days after the CPS workers were there. What he discovered during that period doesn't have any relevance to what Ms. Brown seen or didn't see at the time she was at the residence. And
it may have some relevance in that prior witnesses that he also seen medication located in a certain place.
The prior witness, Your Honor, indicated that he saw a couple bottles in the cabinet in the kitchen.
Correct.
And he indicated that the scene when he came back after the child died was different than when he went there the first time.
And the house wasn't kept.
Exactly, Your Honor. So I don't see how Sergeant Mackey's testimony based on showing up 30 days later has any relevance on what the officer saw or what Ms. Brown saw at the time she was doing her investigation.
Maybe somewhat relevant. I'll overrule the objection. Make your statement. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, what did you observe? What did you observe?
So when you first walked into the apartment, it was there were stains on the carpet. There was things scattered about. Which looked like suspected vomit on the carpet. That was in the living room area. When I went into the kitchen, in the kitchen cupboards where the food is usually kept, there was medications. There were some ordinary pill bottles, but in the kitchen cupboards where you would expect to find food.
How many?
Well, there was a handful of pill bottles, but there was also, I think what they're called is blister packs, which are like rectangular in shape, and when you open them, there's pills designated for each day of the week, and in order to get the pills, you have to push them through the back foil that keeps them in place. So it's not like they're all in one pile, you just take out as many as you need. So it's day specific.
And I will object to relevancy unless we can indicate that there was any evidence that those were either present on April 21st or 22nd, or that anyone from CPS...
Actually, I think this helps you. I'm not sure why you're objecting.
Well, I would like the foundation at least laid. I guess I can do it on cross-examination. Thank you, Judge.
Sir, did the records indicate, well, I'm going to show you this exhibit marked as proposed exhibit number 17. Did you place onto evidence these blister packs that you described?
I did.
And was that on Detroit Police Department evidence tag 562269 dash?
Now I understand the question. Why is this relevant? These blister packs.
Your Honor, this is an ongoing investigation. It's supposed to be completed within 30 days. There are
Multiple blister packs. Why is it relevant?
to show that if an well,
because Officer Thurston, when he arrived, CPS was there, spoke nothing about any blister packs or anything like that. I don't know when these blister packs come into existence.
I understand that, which is why I asked the court to allow me to call that other worker out of order, the mental health person. But I'm working with the best I can.
All right, so go ahead. So I'm anticipating this other worker is going to give me some more information about these blister packs.
Right. That would be the offer of proof.
Okay.
Sir, did you put them on evidence?
I did.
Do you remember how many there were?
I believe there was 21 7-day supply blister packs.
We can open them for the court, or I would move to admit the exhibit. Counsel wants to inspect it, we can do that at this point. But he didn't you did not have them earlier, so I wasn't able to show them to them.
I would object, again, based on relevance.
I'll hold your objections in advance until we hear from this other witness who's going to make these blister facts relevant.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
And those are exhibits what?
Well, the court's going to rule after
What
after
exhibit?
another witness can testify. Is that right?
Yes, what exhibit is it?
It's marked as number 17, Your Honor.
17.
Yes. I'm going to show you, sir, what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibits number 8, 18, 19, 20, and 21, and ask you if you're familiar with what's contained on these exhibits, and if it fairly and accurately represents where and how you discovered all this medication that you testified to.
And like those facts that you were talking about, these exhibits are going to be made relevant by this other witness as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
These are photographs of the kitchen cabinet that contain the medication I was referring to, the blister packs and the other pill bottles.
And I would be moving for
I reserve my ruling until I have a witness that makes it relevant.
Thank you. And that would be 18 to 21, Your Honor.
18 to 21?
Yeah. I have nothing else.
Cross-examine.
Sergeant Mackey, you testified that on May 23rd, when you arrived at the homicide scene,
May 25th.
I'm sorry,
Maybe 25th.
you obviously expected that personnel from Child Protective Services would answer your questions, correct?
Yes.
And provide whatever information you wanted, yes?
Yes.
And you didn't see Kelly Williams at all that day, correct?
I did not.
You never spoke to her prior to the investigation? Well, you never spoke to Kelly Williams?
No.
Okay. And she wasn't on the scene on April 25th?
I didn't see her there.
And if I understand your testimony correctly, you were upset because you perceived that Elaina Brown didn't answer your questions right away.
I wasn't upset. I was concerned whether or not there was other children that are missing, and where is the adult, or at least one adult is missing.
Okay, and that frustrated you?
It concerned me. We were about to issue, you know, if there was other children missing, Amber Alerts would have been issued. This was going from a homicide scene to possibly kidnapping and additional homicide. This is about as serious as it gets.
And therefore, you recall Ms. Brown indicating to you, I'm a new worker, I need to call for some guidance here?
No, I didn't speak to Ms. Brown. Detective Dowdy did.
Okay. Do you recall that information being provided to you as an investigator?
No, not like that, no.
All right. Because you're aware that CPS information is confidential, correct?
Not to law enforcement.
But do you know that Ms. Brown knew that?
I can't testify as to what someone else knows.
So did you see Ms. Brown on scene?
I did.
Okay.
Do I understand you correctly? You didn't speak to Ms. Brown at all?
I didn't, no.
So this information that she was uncooperative comes from somewhere else?
Detective Michael Dowdy, that was from homicide, that was tasked with talking to her.
As a result of that, you indicated your concern was that this may have been an Amber Alert situation, therefore you issued investigative subpoenas, correct?
No,
Why did you issue the investigative subpoenas?
I don't issue investigative
Why did you
subpoenas.
request that they be issued?
There was a 3-year-old boy found decomposed in an apartment by himself. The mother was nowhere to be found at that time. We had no idea where she was at. The only people that knew the intimate details surrounding Aaron Minor and Deanna Minor were Child Protective Services, and they weren't answering any of our questions. So I went to the prosecutor's office with my concerns, asking that records related to Deanna Minor, Aaron Minor, and all of Deanna Minor's children, Actually, I went there asking for a search warrant, thinking I didn't know you can investigative subpoenas cover records. I always thought it was just sworn testimony.
So you wanted the records to see whether or not there were any other individuals associated with Deanna Minor?
No, I wanted the records to find out what Deanna Minor's situation was involving Aaron Minor. This was still a homicide involving a 3-year-old boy.
And you received the records from Child Protective Services, did you not?
Under investigative subpoena, I did.
Okay. And you actually had testimony from Colin Parks under that investigative subpoena on September 19th, correct?
Yes. I don't recall the date, but I know he provided testimony under investigative subpoena.
Okay. And you recall Colin Parks testifying at the preliminary examination hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall Colin Parks telling you that ongoing contact with a child?
Objection, Your Honor. Is this impeachment? Is she just reading it? There's no relevance for her to read in someone else's testimony.
It sounds like hearsay.
It is, well, it's hearsay, but it's testimony. It's hearsay testimony, and it is not for impeachment or refreshing recollection. It's not Sergeant Mackey's testimony, and it is hearsay.
As an offer of proof, I'm asking him what was told to him, and then my follow-up question will be, based on the information that you received, what did you do based on that information?
So not offer of truth, the matter asserted before the effect on the list. I want to take that into purpose.
Thank you. Do you recall Mr. Parks telling you that ongoing contact with a child would only be required if there were an open case for CPS?
Are you referring to at the preliminary exam or at the...
The information you learned via
I still object as to relevance. What he said then isn't relevant to anything that Sergeant Mackey testified or relevant.
My understanding was that this question was being asked to see what effect it had on Sergeant Mackey and what he did as a result thereof.
That's correct.
In
And I'm
September?
for that limited purpose.
Okay.
To finish my sentence, this would have been the information that you learned from Mr. Parks on September 19th. Do you recall him telling you that information? I'm not sure if I actually even got to finish the sentence.
And again, I object to what Mr. Parks would have said in September in regard to the investigation that Sergeant Mackey testified to.
This head on Sergeant Mackey.
Thank you. Do you recall the question, or would you like me to repeat it?
You'll need to repeat it.
Do you recall learning from Colin Parks on September 19th when he was testifying under investigative subpoena? He told you that ongoing contact with this child would only be required if it became an open case. But ongoing contact and a requirement for face-to-face contact isn't required in an investigation.
I would have to look at the entire content of that statement.
Looking at his transcript, refresh your recollection.
It would, but I would have to read the entire, for me to comment on whether or not this affected, well, I guess, is that what you're asking me? Does this one statement that he gave affect?
No, I'm asking you if you learned that information.
I would have to review the investigative subpoena transcripts.
For reference, it's page 43, lines 20 through 24. Just read it to yourself, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Based on that information that Mr. Parks provided to you, did you seek to follow up to determine whether or not CPS had an open case or whether the case was still in the investigation stage?
I don't know the difference between an open case and a case in investigative.
If Mr. Parks told you that there was not an ongoing duty to have face-to-face contact with a child unless it was an open case, would it make a difference to you as an investigator whether or not CPS had
Your Honor,
excuse me,
I'm right to object.
What's your objection?
The objection is that this is testimony, whether or not it had an effect on him in September. Is that the question? Because this information comes from September, and if we want to admit the investigative subpoena transcript, that's fine. But what I'm suggesting to this court is Mr. Parks testified here that many of the things he said he's now reconsidered. So we don't even know he said
What's your objection?
The objection is what this has any relevance to an investigation from May to September, or May and beyond, with regard to the death and the information that Sergeant Mackey had with regard to the risk that this child was at during the time after the half-hour visit on April 21st.
Thank you. The question was, if you learned this information, that there was no duty to continue the ongoing face-to-face contact unless there was an open case, obviously then, as an investigator, it would be relevant to you to determine whether or not there was an open case with CPS, correct?
That's not what that says. Will you hear me read?
Did Colin, I thought you just told me that you received information that there's only an ongoing duty when there's an open case.
When you say an open case and an investigation, what's the difference? Maybe that's where the confusion's coming in.
Did you learn did you ask what the difference was from Mr. Parks?
I thought they meant the same thing. I didn't know there was a difference between
Okay. So you don't know, or you didn't realize that there was a difference between an open case and a
And
case...
again,
Just
how
let me
is
finish
this
my sentence.
relevant? How is this relevant to what happened to Aaron Minor in terms of what protective services did? And by the way, Your Honor, Colin Parks testified that the case remained open because there were obvious concerns. That was his testimony to this court.
First, there's a difference between a case remaining open and a case being opened. First of all, I think the testimony was that the case was in the investigative stage until the child died, at which time the case was open.
I believe he did say that the case remained open. Those were his words.
At the time of the death.
Right.
At the time of the death.
Well,
Prior
up
to that,
until the time of death.
correct. But there's a difference between that and an open case, if you'll recall his testimony. His testimony was that the case, there was never any substantiation.
He said the case was never closed out.
Correct. However, per policy, an actual case was never open. In other words, never substantiated.
I haven't heard any of that.
Okay, well, we'll save it for argument. But the reason that I believe this is relevant...
You may be right that I haven't heard that from this witness.
Understood. The reason this is relevant is because I believe the prosecution's argument is that Elaina Brown and Kelly Williams had a duty to do something, and I don't think that there's been any evidence to prove that they did have a duty. Therefore, I'd like to know whether or not he found any evidence of that and whether he found that to be relevant in his investigation.
You may proceed.
Thank you. So the question was, did you make a determination as to what specifically the stage, the CPS stage was in at the time that the death occurred?
What do you mean, what the stage?
Other than speaking to Colin Parks, did you gather any specialized information? I don't want to know what it is yet, but did you gather any information that would suggest to you that Elaina Brown had a duty to go back to the scene and investigate face-to-face, person-to-person?
Yes, she absolutely had a duty to do so.
That's your opinion?
That based on the notes that she entered on in regards to her case and her findings,
Okay.
and the warnings and concerns voiced by mental health care workers and her other children's father, that she absolutely had a duty.
Okay, so you heard Colin Parks testify that no, excuse me, can I please finish the sentence before she objects? Okay. Thank you. You heard Colin Parks testify that there were no violations of policy in this investigation, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. First of all, I didn't hear, I don't know where she's referring to, what testimony she's referring to, or how she can testify to what someone else said. It's hearsay.
She asked if he heard it. Right. That was her question.
That's hearsay. That's asking him to testify as...
That was sworn testimony from this stand while he was seated somewhere in the courtroom, if he was in the courtroom at the time that the testimony was given. Right. Okay.
Thank you. You heard Colin Parks say that, correct?
I did hear him say that.
Okay. You also heard Colin Parks say that he's actually the one who wrote the policy, right?
He's one of the people responsible for the policy, but he also said he didn't know the facts about the case, and he wasn't familiar with all the facts surrounding the case, so I don't know where he's making this opinion.
He said that he wasn't familiar with the facts of the case at the time of the investigative subpoena testimony, correct?
Even when questions were put to him on the stand, he still said he wasn't familiar with all the facts of the case.
You heard him testify that he reviewed the file, right, in response to Ms. Goldfarb's question.
But not all of the file, he said.
Okay, did you hear him say that there were no policy violations?
I did hear him say that.
Okay, so here's my question. If he thinks there are no policy violations, and you, Sergeant Mackey, think that there are policy violations, and you're telling the court with absolute certainty, what's your qualification? What makes you knowledgeable?
Objection, argumentative.
Thank you, friends.
Have you ever been a CPS worker?
Objection, argumentative.
Have you ever been a CPS worker?
No.
Have you ever been trained as a CPS worker?
No.
Have you ever been a CPS supervisor?
No.
Have you ever been trained as a CPS supervisor?
No.
Do you know specifically what they are trained about?
I did review their training material
But you
and
don't-
their standing, their manual. We would refer to it as standard operating procedure, but their manual, the rules and guidelines, I did review all of those.
In relation to this case?
I reviewed the entire manual, yes.
Okay. So prior to this case, you didn't have any expert knowledge in terms of policies and procedures with CPS?
No, never had a reason to.
So you read them and interpreted them, correct?
Yes.
And that's what your opinion is based on, your reading of the policies and your interpretation of them.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you based when you come to court and you tell this judge that you believe there's an absolute, may I finish the sentence? That there's an absolute duty for these two women to follow up at that particular
That
time?
comes for a conclusion. I get to make that.
Right, that was exactly the objection. This is a legal conclusion for the court to be made based on all the evidence. Helen Parks, well,
I need to rephrase, because what I need to ask him is what his opinion is based on.
I don't care what his opinion is.
Okay. So other than your reading and interpretation, did you speak to anybody else to interpret those policies other than Helen Parks?
We did investigative subpoenas with other people from CPS, yes.
And did they help you interpret the policies?
Yes.
Who?
I would have to look at the list of names.
His opinion is not relevant. Whether they assisted him in interpreting or not interpreting is not relevant. Whether Helen Park's opinion is one opinion. The court is the one who makes who hopefully will look at all of the records and the policies and
Sustain.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I have just a moment? After May 25th of 2016, did you receive phone calls from either Elaina Brown or Kelly Williams that you didn't return?
Yes.
Multiple.
From Elaina Brown, yes. Not from Ms. Williams.
Thank you. I'd like to further.
Nothing further.
Why did you not return the call?
She became a suspect.
Had she invoked rights?
She did.
Are you supposed to talk to somebody whether they want to talk to you or not when they invoke their rights?
Generally, no.
She invoked her right to an attorney, correct?
She did, and she became a suspect, so I was not going to share any information regarding the death of Aaron Minor with her.
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
I just have one question.
Of course. Mr. Bennett.
Is your testimony that you said you didn't return the phone call because she had invoked her rights?
No, because she was a suspect.
But it's also your testimony. Did you ever talk to her at all?
I did.
And when did you talk to her?
Shortly, I would say, if not the very next day, after Aaron Minor's body was found. This was a phone call, not face-to-face.
And what was the essence of your conversation?
She was requesting copies of the police report be released to her. And I informed her that the police report was in fact, I made arrangements for it to be locked where it couldn't be distributed to anybody, and that informed her that she wouldn't be getting any copies of anything involved in the investigation.
Is there anything further?
It was just, that was the only topic, was the police reports.
Nothing further, Your Honor. So is it your testimony that you don't talk to suspects who may be involved in crimes?
When we interrogate, we do.
So you do talk to suspects?
Well, if they're in custody, we go to interview them. If they don't have an attorney that's representing them, they reached out to us, letting us know that they represent that person.
You didn't talk to Ms. Brown?
No.
If she was a suspect?
She was, yes.
So you made an exception for her?
I don't understand what you're saying. She called me asking me for a copy of the police reports, and I had informed her that they're not being released to her.
Can you further testify, correct, that you don't talk to suspects?
When they have an attorney representing them, that's correct.
Nothing further.
Thank you, sir. You may stay.
I don't know about anything.
I do have other matters.
I just need you to talk. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
She is here. Do you want to do, she's here, all right, I'll just run. Okay, thank you.